The sun was sinking behind the red cliffs when the cowboy heard the voice that would change his life forever. It wasn't a cry. It wasn't even a whisper carried by the wind. It was steady, sharp, and fierce, so out of place in the quiet desert that he stopped his horse mid-stride. "Make it quick, cowboy. I won't scream." He turned, heart pounding, not knowing that the moment he followed that voice into the shadows of the canyon, he'd be choosing a path that would test everything he believed about loyalty, mercy, and the price of saving a life. He found her pinned beneath a slab of fallen rock, her dark eyes blazing despite the streaks of blood on her face. She was young, maybe 18, wrapped in torn Apache buckskin, and her breathing was ragged. The canyon wall had crumbled from a recent storm, pinning her legs so deep it looked almost impossible to free without hurting her. But she didn't flinch when he approached. Instead, she tilted her chin upward, proud even in pain. "You hear me?" she said. "Do it fast." The cowboy knelt, shaking his head. "Ma'am, I ain't here to finish you off. I'm here to get you out." She blinked, confusion flashing quickly into mistrust. "You're white," she said bluntly. "And you're Apache," he answered softly. "Makes no difference. You're hurt." That startled her, enough to loosen the armor around her voice. "Most men don't stop to help my kind," she murmured, eyes drifting. "Most men ain't me," he replied. He studied the rock trapping her. It was bad. Her leg was twisted, swollen, and bleeding beneath the weight. He needed leverage and rope. He needed her trust even more. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Nara." "Well, Nara. I'm Cole. And I need you to stay awake while I figure a way to lift this off." She opened her mouth as if to protest but suddenly winced, the pain finally catching up to her. Cole acted quickly, gathering branches from a dead juniper and looping his rope around the boulder. He braced himself, muscles burning as he pulled with everything he had. The canyon was quiet except for the groaning of rock and Nara's sharp breaths. The rock shifted, slowly, painfully, until it finally rolled free. Nara gasped and collapsed forward, tears she had held back spilling down her cheeks. Cole gently lifted her, but she shoved his hands away weakly. "Don't touch me," she whispered. "My people, if they see me with you, they might think," she didn't finish, but he understood. The land was thick with tension, white settlers pushing deeper into Apache territory every year. Trust was hard-earned. And dangerous. But she couldn't walk. Cole spoke softly. "You can hate me later. Right now, let me save you." Nara hesitated, trembling, then finally nodded. He carried her to his horse and tied her gently so she wouldn't fall. She leaned against him, exhausted, and the warmth of her breath against his neck shook him more than he expected. As they rode out of the canyon, she whispered, barely audible, "Why did you stop?" "Because I heard a voice that wasn't afraid," he answered. "I listened." Night fell thick and cold by the time they reached an abandoned line shack miles from any trail. Cole laid her on a bed of old blankets and built a fire. Nara watched him with suspicion and exhaustion, every movement slow with pain. "You're taking a risk," she murmured. "Probably," he admitted. "But I reckon your life's worth it." A strange silence followed, soft, hesitant. She studied him closely, as though trying to see past his skin, past the history between their peoples. "You don't know who I am," she said after a moment. "I don't need to," he replied. "You're someone who needs help." "I'm the daughter of a chief," she said finally. Cole froze. Suddenly the risk had doubled. Tripled. If her people found him with her, it wouldn't matter that he saved her. Blood would answer blood. He swallowed. "Then we better make sure you live to tell them that." Nara stared into the fire, and her voice softened for the first time. You should have left me there, cowboy." "Yeah," he whispered, meeting her eyes. "But I didn't." The night stretched long, filled with desert wind and the crackling fire. Cole tended her wound, cleaned the blood, wrapped her leg the best he could. Nara gritted her teeth, refusing to cry out. But once, just once, a tear slipped down her cheek. Cole pretended not to notice, but something in him tightened. She wasn't just strong. She was brave in a way he'd never seen. When she drifted into uneasy sleep, Cole stayed awake, staring at the shadows moving across the shack walls. He didn't know why this girl mattered so much. He only knew that tomorrow would bring danger, maybe from the land, maybe from her tribe, maybe even from his own people. But he also knew he wasn't walking away. By dawn, Nara's fever was rising. She shivered violently as Cole pressed cool water onto her forehead. "Stay with me," he urged. She opened her eyes, barely focused. If my people find you, they will kill you." "Then I guess I'll just have to make sure they find us alive," he said, trying to sound calm even as fear gnawed at him. She gripped his hand weakly. "Why are you doing this?" Cole swallowed hard. "Because nobody deserves to die alone in a canyon." Hours later, as he prepared their things for travel, a faint rumble echoed through the desert. Horses. Many of them. Cole stepped outside and saw riders cresting the ridge, Apache warriors painted for battle, bows drawn, eyes burning with suspicion and fury. Nara called weakly from inside. "Cole, don't fight them. Please." He nodded. He wouldn't. He couldn't. The riders surrounded the shack. Their leader dismounted, a tall man with storm-dark eyes and a chief's authority in every step. Nara's father. Cole raised his hands. "She's inside. Alive." The chief glared at him, expression unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes, fear or hope, before he pushed past him into the shack. The others followed. Cole waited outside, breath shallow, heart pounding. Minutes felt like hours until finally the chief returned. His face was stern. His voice low. "You saved my daughter." Cole nodded silently. The chief stared at him for a long moment, too long, and Cole braced himself for death. But instead, the chief stepped closer and placed a hand over his chest. "A man's worth," he said slowly, "is measured by the lives he chooses to protect, not the ones he takes." Cole exhaled shakily. Does that mean I can go?" The chief's lips twitched in something almost like a smile. "It means you have earned safe passage. Leave before the sun sets." Cole nodded, but something inside him twisted. He glanced toward the shack. Can I say goodbye?" The chief hesitated, then allowed it. Cole walked inside. Nara lay wrapped in soft hides now, her tribe tending to her wounds. She looked stronger, her fever breaking. When she saw him, her eyes softened in a way that nearly stopped his heart. "You came back in," she whispered. "You didn't have to." He knelt beside her. "Yeah," he said quietly. "But I wanted to." She smiled faintly. "I won't forget you, cowboy." "Don't need to remember me," he answered softly. "Just live. That's all I wanted." Nara's fingers brushed his hand, light, trembling, grateful. "You saved me, when you didn't have to." Cole swallowed hard. "I guess. I heard someone brave asking for help." Her eyes shimmered. "Will I ever see you again?" He hesitated, knowing the truth. "Not likely." A tear slipped from her eye. "Then, thank you. For choosing mercy." Cole rose slowly and stepped outside, the weight in his chest heavier than any boulder he'd lifted. The chief gave him a final nod. Cole mounted his horse, turned toward the open desert, and rode away as the wind lifted behind him. But he didn't feel alone. Not really. Because somewhere in that canyon, in that shack, in that girl he saved, he had seen something that changed him. That courage wasn't about who carried the gun or wore the badge. It was about the choice to stop when everyone else kept riding. The choice to save a life even when it risked your own. And as the sun dipped low and the desert stretched wide before him, Cole knew that the world was full of divides, walls between people, tribes, histories. But kindness was the one bridge that could cross them all, and sometimes, he thought, the bravest thing a man could do, was listen to the voice that asked him not to let them die alone.